Hmm. Hello, Jim.
Dale, how are you?
Doing great. Good to see you upright and healthy again.
Well, yeah, November was a rough month for me. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say. Here's Steve and Graham.
There
Hi,
I am.
Steve. Hi, Graham. Half of
Not
Graham's
just
head. Hello.
not just the ceiling. Yeah. Okay. How y'all?
Good. Enjoying the snow.
A,
Yeah,
re-
real winter, huh?
a real winter, isn't that amazing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yep, I've gotten out for well, no, more than that, a couple of cross-country skis.
Um,
Um, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
yes, perfect conditions for cross country.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we're gonna get started right away because Steve has a something he has to get to at 6. So we'll just dive right in. Um, so welcome to the January 17th meeting of the MLP Board and Broadband Committee. I am Gail Huntress, MLP Manager, facilitating the meeting. This meeting is fully remote. Participating remotely, we have MLP board members Jim Hemingway, Graham Sefton, and Steve Schmidt. Broadband Committee member Craig Martin is absent tonight, although he may show up late. So our first order of business is approving the previous meeting minutes, which were taken by me, and then cleaned up by Jim. Any discussion around that?
So Gail, you did get a chance to look at them because there was a number that I changed based on your comment on the side.
I apologize. I missed that change. I can get in there very quick right now, though.
Well, you just said in a note that there was an incorrect figure, and the figure should be this in your notes on
Oh,
the,
okay.
and then but it hadn't been changed in the minutes themselves. So I made that change hopefully for you, if it's correct.
All right, yes, as long as it matches the note I put in there,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah, that'll work.
okay.
So,
Move we accept the minutes, then if there's
Move we
no
accept
more
the minutes as
discussion.
amended.
Second,
wonderful, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Great, okay.
I have just one question about, not so much about the minutes, but about Graham's visit to Pratt Corner Road and looking for the buried conduit, which has our would that fiber that comes from Crown Castle over to the pole, which you were concerned about, that no one, accidentally hit it or dug it up. Is that using this, the same conduit they use throughout Shutesbury?
No, I don't think so. I think what you see going down the pole is like a 3-inch
It's so
plastic conduit.
Oh,
If it had
okay.
been a steel conduit, they would have seen it. But
Yeah.
it's non-conductive fiber in a non-conductive conduit. So
Oh, I see, because the conduit that was used all over Shutesbury had a tracer wire in it, so it would
Yeah.
have been detectable.
didn't have a tracer wire in it. Yeah,
Okay,
I think probably they probably do things slightly different in high voltage, vicinity
Yes, okay, all right,
of their power grid there too. So I don't know.
okay, just wondering.
But they managed not to hit it, at least in their explorations, because we never did end up kicked down to our MBI backup. So
Yep, all right, Graham, anything on the hut report?
no, though I would I've left it on the because the HVAC, one of them got replaced, and so I'm leaving it running on that one a little bit just to catch it up on its hours instead of cycling between the two. So the other thing to mention is I would be happy. I've been thinking every time I see it in there that I could coordinate with Sheld and install the U6, the Gigaspire router that's sitting in a box there, not being used. It would liberate one more Linksys 7300, which isn't a bad thing at this point too. And I know that Sheld was going to be quite happy to have a U6 running there because it allows anyone, all of us, to interrogate, to see what is the status of the router in the hut. So it has that going for it. I can't think of a reason not to do it unless Sheld has one. So, and I will, Gail, I'll make it so that it simply safe still talks to it. So the Gigaspire stuff cleverly switches between 2.4 and 5 gig itself, and so it just has a single name. So I can either call the Gigaspire, the U6 router name. I can call it exactly what the SimpliSafe uses right now, which is 2.4 gigahertz, or I can go into if SimpliSafe tolerates it, I will change it to match the hut to not say. It sort of confuses things if you call something that is really the U6, if it's really flipping between two frequencies, to call it one of those frequencies. It's a workaround, but it'd be nicer just to call it what it is. So anyhow, if there's any problems, you'll hear about them. I won't do it next week. I'll probably do it the week after. And if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to what it is.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'll get the SimpliSafe notification saying, it's lost connection with base kind of thing. So I'll know you're in there.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up before I go, just so yeah. And the last thing to say about that is that it'll be on Gigaspire, and oh god, I had one other thing to say on that, but it's gone, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, all right then.
Nothing else on the hard. I did check see the steel wool is still in place on both the two entrance points behind the the HVAC unit. So I was glad to see that. And it's probably in the springtime. I will inject. There is, you know how there's still the raceway that leads up the walls. I will make two careful little holes in them, and I'll inject a caulking compound that actually is mouse-proof caulking compound. So who knows? It has grit in it or something that mice don't like to chew. So that they'll never have to look again. Then so that'd be a nice thing.
Oh, great. Yeah, really good idea.
Mm.
All right. Let's see. So let's see. We only had 23 calls in December for tech support, which is a
Mm.
really slow month. Usually our average is around like 43. I think everyone was just celebrating and doing holiday things. Who knows? But slow month there. Let's see, I'm just gonna go through like just a quick list. Our big item of tonight is to go over the first draft of the budget. So the pole replacements almost down to the dam area have been done. So really all we have is like a little bit down there and then the Lakeview section. I have been in touch with Aaron Saunders' office. They are looking into any money from I'm sorry, they got an answer that there is no money from the Department of Public Utilities. They reached out to MBI and the Executive Office of Economic Development. So that's that governor's office that initially administered our grants for the last mile to see if there's anything available there. I don't have high hopes that they're going to magically find anything. I'll explain later how financially we're okay. It's just kind of a bummer that this all came at once. Let's see. Our current financial picture is very good. So we have, oh, here, let me just bring it up and show it. So here's the our bottom line. We have about $73,000 in our balance, which is great.
And it looks like Gail Weiss has taken the 45,000 out for the capital stabilization,
Correct.
which is a big chunk.
Yeah.
But do we still have the debt payment coming up? It's the other big,
Yeah, that has not
Yeah.
been removed. So that's a biggie.
yeah.
Yep. I'm just looking over the quick things. Oh, Jim finished the annual report. So that's all done for us. Thank you, Jim. It was a nice narrative format. I don't know if you've noticed, but I worked in December to update our website. And
Okay, yeah, you got rid of some stuff, right? Some of the history stuff. Yeah,
no, well, the history and the timeline is there, but I worked with Gail Flesher to make now instead of this huge, long, ridiculous FAQ page, it's
Okay.
just divided into these 7 or 8 sections.
Yeah. Yeah. When
And
I happened to look at
Yeah.
it the other day, and it looked much more
yeah,
compact.
it's so much better now. And so, they go to the most frequently asked speed questions, and there's just so much less to scroll through here.
Yeah.
And it opens in a new page, so you can just go back and like, well, what's the phone and voicemail questions?
Yeah.
And just so much more manageable. So I'm very happy with this format.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll serve everybody better.
Good. Gail, do you want to send the annual report around just so we could have a look at it?
Sure, sure. Let me just make a note of that. Other news, so we were approved for that digital equity planning grant from MBI. So in January and February, I'm going to be working with FERCog to do a townwide survey to identify our digital equity holes. Leverett, the reason it's not moving quite as fast is because FERCog asked Leverett if they wanted to participate too, because our towns are so similar in a lot of ways. And so they're going to do a combined effort with us on that one. But anyway, that's going to be happening over the next couple of months. Next Tuesday, MBI is hosting a full day workshop focused on the digital equity plan implementation. So this is how towns like us actually get access to that $147 million or 142, whatever it is, $1 million of Massachusetts's portion of the billions of federal BEAD monies. So I hope they so far, I've been to two in person and I think one more online of those MBI kind of informational sessions, and they're doing a pretty good job of like conveying good information, useful information at them. So anyway, that's going on. The IRU with New Salem has moved forward. If you recall, they want to also connect to Crown Castle like what Leverett did. The difference is that it is not an equal arrangement because we're not going through New Salem to get to anything. So I drafted an IRU. New Salem reviewed it. Donna, our lawyer, reviewed it. She made some changes. I sent it back to New Salem. New Salem came back and said, we actually want to pay you upfront for the IRU. The original agreement that we worked out was, well, after 5 years, we're going to see if our dark fiber has value to it. And we'll go through a market calculation to figure out how much to kind of lease it to you. But upfront, we're not going to charge anything. And New Salem says, we don't want that. We want to know what our budget is. We would like to pay you for it upfront and an annual maintenance cost. So this is nice for us. It was unexpected that's the route that they wanted to take, but I understand it. They don't want uncertainties in their budget, just like maybe we wouldn't want that. So I'm doing research trying to figure out how to configure one of these IRUs when it's an actual payment process. So I've reached out to Shell to get some of those IRU rates current for our region. Graham, question for you. How many, do you remember how many strands New Salem was going to use? Is it just 2? Yes. Okay, 2.
Yep.
2 strands. Okay. Yeah, because most the quotes that I'm getting are a per strand rate. It's not, so just to be clear, this is not going to be a lot of money. It's like 5.8 miles from their interconnect down at Cooleyville to the Pratt Corner Road location. And so far the rates I've gotten are somewhere between $50 and $150 per mile. So
per year. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, this is not going to have a big impact on our budget.
Yeah.
And
the language of our agreement would say we'll take every effort to help them or to keep it up because it's ours as well. We got to keep ours up. But if the language will also say, if acts of God and whatever other acts happen, we won't, we can't be held liable for all that. So the lawyers know how to keep us safe.
Yes, the whole IRU contract is actually already written and reviewed by Donna. The thing that's changed now is that now we have to figure out how to put the money in it, because it wasn't there before. So we'll work on that over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean the royal I. I'll figure it out with New Salem and Donna of how much we can charge. Before we go to the final thing, I'll bring it to you about with the research that I found and how, what the final contract is actually going to charge based on market rates to make sure it's okay with all of you. Hello, Craig.
Hi there. I've been listening.
Oh, great. All right. Going through the rest of the list here. All right, so that's it for kind of the quick update items. Next thing I want to talk about, because it is time sensitive before we get to the budget, is DigSafe. So I'm gonna bring a document up. So DigSafe. So we are registered with DigSafe, and as you all know, it's kind of a not just a statewide, but a big regional. I don't know if it's national organization, and so whenever anybody within Shutesbury pulls a DigSafe, we get notified of that. An email comes to me, and it has the address of who's asking for the DigSafe. And so I look on that and I compare it to a spreadsheet I've made of everybody who's underground. And if they're on the underground list, I then reach out to Sheld and say, you need to go do a DigSafe. And they send out a technician who marks it. So that's been the process so far. So far, there's been none in December, none in January. It makes sense. It's ground is frozen, nobody's digging. But there was 8 requests in October, November. There was 10 in September, and out of all of these 26, since we started participating, 2 of those have required deployment. So 2 out of those 26 have required a technician to be sent out. So all this is fine. However, one of the things that I was worried about this process is that what if I'm away? DigSafe is going to send a notification to me and nobody's going to get it for the 48 hours when we need to respond to it. So I asked Sheld, can we put this as part of the ticket system as something that goes into our regular process with you? And they said, fine. The problem is that doing this is going to require a $1,600 update to their software so that they can accept tickets from Shutesbury, mark them appropriately, and then get their technician on call to take a look at it. Now, every time a DigSafe ticket comes in, they will look at that ticket just like I do, but they're going to charge $135 for every ticket because it's going to require an escalated technician to just look at it. It's a it's a 5-minute task, but it still has to go to like a technician on call in order to do it. So I think that's why they're doing a 1-hour minimum charge, is to account for that on-call time. And then if it needs deployment, the technician will send somebody out. And here's some examples of charges. It'll be a 3-hour minimum for every time one of these deployments happens. Generally, we can always keep them during business hours. But there are emergency dig safes that come through that like, no, you have to do it right now. And what else is important to know?
I'd just say the emergency dig safes are very rare in a country town. So they do happen in cities. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do have the math here, here's, we don't have a lot of months. Well, I don't know. I guess we have 5 months here, or 4.5. Let's say about 6 tickets on average over the year. But 6 times 12 times 135 means that even before we do any deployments, we'd be spending $9,720 on just dig safe administration.
Can I ask,
Mhm.
does this only kick in though if you're not available?
No, it's always.
Hmm.
It's like there's no way. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There might be a way of like, well, I'm available now, and then only sending tickets on off hours, but that would require me to constantly be flipping back like I'm available now, I'm not available, I'm available, I'm not available. And the way this software update right here means all of our tickets would just go into their system. So I'm
And Gail, it's a good point. You could be the normal technician person that it goes to, and they could schedule other technicians whenever you say, not me, because like you said, you've got 48 hours, and 48 hours is pretty nominal. Usually these things are much softer than 40. You've got more time than 48 hours, but even 48 hours. How does that sound? That you could be the Shell technician in some sense. That software routine it'll send it to whoever the software says to send it to. You could ask them whether that would be a possibility.
I think she's saying that it's going to be a big burden to be flipping that switch back and forth.
I'm willing to ask. The two unknowns are can it flip back and forth? And to Craig's point, I am worried about the work required of like having to notify. It would have to be a human task to constantly notify them of my availability or not.
Wouldn't a normal work week just be manage a 48-hour cycle? Typically, I don't know.
Yep, we could do it like that. If I was really out of the office, like traveling or sick, I'd have to notify them. All right, let's hold on to that for a second though as a possible solution here.
Sure. Yeah.
But also, so I was like, the idea that we're spending almost $10,000 on like just an administration of something doesn't. I'm not wild about this.
Yeah.
And I called Margie over in Leverett. They don't do dig safe at all. They just they're not registered with dig safe. They just let it go. Margie says sometimes if people know that they have an underground, they will call her separately and she will just send them a copy of their plans and say, don't dig. Or she'll say, do you know where your underground fiber is? And if they say, yeah, she says, great, don't dig there. You're welcome. And so they don't do any markouts at all. That all they do is they'll send the plans over but this is only if somebody separately calls her, not through DigSafe, just on their own volition and saying, oh, by the way, I'm doing some digging. So they have never she also says that she doesn't think there's any tracers, so they couldn't mark it anyway with their installations, which I was like, it seems like they would have tracers if they were installed in 2017. But anyway, lots of digging that's going on that they just don't know about and they don't care and they've never had a problem. And and I'm wondering if it's because, people are just pretty aware of where their underground fiber is, but also because these generally follow electrical, if it's underground, the electrical's already been marked out, and so it gets avoided. Is that right thinking?
It's often
Well,
close to the buried electrical because it's between the service pole and where the metering is on the house and where the Verizon came in. Yeah, so that's a pretty likely thing. I think it's only going to cost $1,500 maybe to repair something that gets hit.
Well, that's another calculus. Something it was like, well, we just kind of let this go. I'm glad to keep being the clearinghouse for these emails that come in, and if I know it's an underground, I can, I can take care of it. Some might get missed, but do we just kind of like accept the risk of that, Jim?
Gail?
The only places we want to look after are the one that first arose this, which is at the town hall,
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Yeah,
Sorry, Jim.
and back at the Crown Castle one that you were just dealing with.
Yeah. At least we've got cover there with them.
Yeah.
Gail?
Jim, you want to say something?
Yes, well, I'm thinking that if a contractor comes in and digs up our fiber by accident, aren't they liable? They have to pay to fix it, do they not? And I have a feeling that if that is the case, I'm pretty sure that is the case, that makes contractors pretty wary of potential and expensive repair to the fiber system. So I'm wondering if that's of any help too in sort of trying to calculate what it might cost if some fracture takes place.
Jim, they'll say they did a dig safe,
Yeah.
and that leaves them unliable. So, and that's fair enough, and we can leave them with that because it's a small risk for us, and we should still tell people, every spring when you're digging in your garden, when you're doing your projects, don't dig your fiber up, folks. So.
Yeah. The fact that we weren't registered with DigSafe for the last 3 years, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Leverett's been ignoring this for
Even
6
longer.
years.
Yeah.
And not even like they get nothing, right? We're at least getting the notifications and making an effort to get in touch with and actually do it, perform a DigSafe.
Leverett does have some underground distribution near the town hall going across the area where the church is there, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some exposure then, eh, Steve?
Well, they've got plenty of exposure. I mean, I've gone to Leverett to see where, to do repairs in one thing or another, and there's buried fiber all over the place, and actually not very well buried. One of their big complaints with what was the company that did their drops was that they did it very poorly, and sometimes the fiber lines were exposed when they should have been buried better in the ground. I mean, it was a much more of a hack job in Leverett than it ever was in Shutesbury. And even in spite of that, they've never had any problems. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like a big risk to me if we forego all of this expense.
And as we know, the fiber is pretty rugged stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, these stories of it falling down into a highway and cars driving over it and it still works. So
the drop to the home is much less substantial. So just what's pulled into the conduit, it's a pokey little cheap thing. So it's not rugged like our distribution cable is.
but it's got the conduit as some level of protection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, another thing that I could do to help ensure that these aren't missed is I think I can set up a forwarding system for it to come to, it all comes to the broadband email, but then an inbox rule that it will forward to my cell phone. and that would help. And again, it's a less than 5-minute task, like check the address against the spreadsheet. So that's another thing that I could put in place to help catch these. And then maybe when there's really not that often when I'm completely gone of like the week in the summer when I go hiking in the White Mountains. That's really the only time I'm really just gone out of touch.
Yeah, so I think for those few times, we just risk this and not spend this significant sum to mitigate any possible risk we could have. And if you keep doing what you're doing, you're catching most of the notifications, and I'm good with that.
Like that pragmatism.
All right. So yeah, are we agreed that we don't want to actually put, despite thinking otherwise initially, we don't want to put Sheld in charge of this because of the expense for the pay, the ROI. It's just not worth it.
Yes,
I think I
yes,
agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you for talking that through with me. I will decline their offer here and we'll say we will just take care of it. All right. Moving on to our budget. So I don't expect that we are going to vote on this draft budget tonight. My goal is to get through all of the items and have all of you ask good questions and figure out what we don't know, what we need to know in order to get to our final draft. So this is kind of the first look at it. So I'll go through all of the budget items. I am going to just start with some great news. So way back, we early as like 2017, if you remember, we got on, no, it was 2018. We got on board with the Connect America Fund that was administered by Westfield Gas and Electric. And that is finally coming to fruition. They have met the requirements. And so going forward, we're going to get $14,730 a year.
Right, great.
Sweet.
As of this year, starting this year,
This year, we are going to get, hold on, let me get the amount.
Back paid.
We're going to get back paid 44,277. So it's three sets of years. And then 7 years going forward, each year going forward after this will be the 14,730.
It was a good investment, just like we hoped it would be.
Yep.
this is America. What was this again?
It's CAF 2, the Roman numeral 2.
Oh, yeah, I know, but you gave it a different name.
Oh, Connect America Fund.
Connection American.
Connect America Fund. CAF 2 is its abbreviation.
That's good, because we'd been estimating around 10,000 a year, so.
Yep, it went higher because we have more serviceable locations than originally thought.
And we wanted to be conservative too. I think we
Mhm.
kind of figured.
We figured it would maybe end up being less, and then instead it ended up being more, which is great.
And we'll be getting this for next 8, 9, 10 years, something?
It's
This is
it's a 10-year grant program,
Uh-huh.
14,730 a year.
Okay.
And we will be getting the first quarter payment this year. They say April, but I'm not going to expect it this fiscal year. These things, it's coming from the federal government, so I just can't imagine it's going to come on time. So we should not count on it happening like before the end of this fiscal year, but I think it's fine to count on it for fiscal year 2025 budget. So that's great news. And it's gonna help us with some of these other items because first thing here is routine maintenance. I think we should bump this up to 70,000.
Yes.
Any
Sure.
objections?
No, inflation is,
Yeah,
inflation would say that, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Luckily,
and just our experience as well.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, luckily inflation isn't going to touch us yet
Mhm.
because our labor is locked in for our
Right, but any materials they install.
correct. You're
It's got it.
Yep, you're right. You're right. Materials are going up.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll bump this up to, just gonna make a note. 70,000. Insurance. The actual, we have 11,000 budgeted. Last year it was 10,494 was the actual rate that we paid. I am waiting for our representative from Mia to tell me what are we actually going to pay this year. So it's not a guess. I can get the actual figure for this. I'm hoping she can tell me what we're going to pay next year, but if not, I'll get a best estimate. And I've asked, do they expect rates to go up because everything else is going up? Backhaul, nothing to discuss here, but we are combining this with the middle mile link monitoring into just one item. This is per the advice of Gail Weiss. We have a lot of budget items. And so to make accounting easier, I'm trying to condense some things.
Cool.
MLP salary, Steve suggested that I ask Sheld and HG&E for current market rates. For this, we have not looked at the manager stipend since 2020. So it's probably worth another look. I went ahead and sent this to them, which like lays out all the things that happen on a monthly basis and estimated hours per month to help them give us an accurate estimate. So it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before I get that, but I will keep you posted. Lifeline. So for this grant money that we get, we do have to pay some administration for it. Right now, we're not using this whole amount because a lot less people in town have signed up for the Lifeline and the ACP benefits. So we're just not paying the administrative fees that we thought we would. It's a two-sided coin because as we're working on improving digital equity in town and getting more people to enroll in this program, our administrative costs of that are going to go up. So although we've always had left over from here, I am a little reluctant to lower this, knowing that next year we may see a large bump in the number of people applying for the benefits, and that's a good thing. But it's gonna, cause some more administrative costs. The bond fee, this is fixed. Can't do anything about it. Pole rental, same thing. And in past years, we have not paid this, but I think I mentioned during the last meeting, I finally got a bill from National Grid for the first time. So they are starting to charge us for pole rental. I talked to Steve about maybe combining these, but he thinks we should keep them separate, and I agree. The reason being that if there comes a time in the future when we need to kind of prove to the state or go after grant money saying we're paying this useless bond fee for polls, it would help to keep it as a separate item to show what we're paying for it.
And the pole rental rate will go up every, a couple of years too.
A couple of years. They just raised it. I think it was last year. So
Right, yeah,
I think
yeah.
we're safe for a little bit here.
Yeah,
And just to be clear, we were paying Verizon and Eversource the pole rental fee from the get-go. It was just
Correct.
National Grid that
Correct.
failed to bill us for like
Yep.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, a
Oh, yeah,
long
so,
time,
yeah.
long
So,
time.
got it.
Gail,
Mm-hmm.
just out of curiosity, Verizon then has to turn around and pay the town for the ability to put poles along our roads. And I was just wondering whether, if those two fees are more or less the same, if anybody knows that. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I was not aware that Verizon is it an annual charge?
Yeah,
I can address that.
yeah,
It's the personal property tax
yeah,
that
yeah,
Verizon and National Grid and Eversource pay for their poles and equipment that's on town property. So it's really not connected. It's they have a figure that they use, and we always look at, and they have a way of depreciating everything, and we'd like to challenge their depreciation, but it gets into a big can of worms there. But I wouldn't say there's any connection between.
Oh, it's not the connection. I just curious, dollar for dollar, whether it was somewhat, whether the town actually got the money back.
Well, we get a
it was-
significant amount personal property tax from the utilities. That's far and away
Yeah.
the biggest personal property tax that we get in the town is
Yeah.
from the 3 big utilities.
Wow.
Dave, do you remember ballpark, what Leverett got? When you, wherever you were aware of it?
I dealt with the Shutesbury figure. I don't have it off the top of my head. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
I can look it up.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
And we should get significantly more from National Grid going forward because of the new poles they put in.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that's great. Well, good, because they just cost us $100,000, so
Yeah, that's what I was gonna-
they should pony up something.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get that, but
All right, supplies and legal, that's keeping this flat. We are actually using some of our legal funds, things like getting consults on the IRU that I'm working on. Let's see, electronics HUD operation, this number may look high to you, but it's because we're combining HUD utilities and HUD operations here. Again, per recommendation of Gail Weiss, to try to cut down on our budget quantity.
the cut down on the number of different
Right.
line items.
Right, the number of different things. I did reach out to Gail Weiss about this other combined item right here. The accounting, treasurer, and auditor. So these are the indirect costs reimbursed the town. Again, we're combining them into one thing. So I'm waiting for an answer on her to see if these figures are still valid. Steve made a good point that our original figures were based on a higher budget. Our original budget was like 450,000 initially, and that was one of the calculations used as a percentage of the whole town budget, of which portion of that should go to accounting, treasurer, and auditor. And so I just asked Gail, like, should we recalculate this? So we'll see what she says about that. Oh, and I forgot to talk about debt service here. So it's due in April. And this is going to be payment 5 on a total of 10 payments. We will have this paid off in 2030. So we're getting there. Steve, you asked me to check on the number of subscribers. So currently we have 776 subscribers and 8 suspensions. So,
what was that again?
Sure, 776 subscribers and 8 of those are suspended, which this is our highest suspension rate in January.
Is that the seasonal?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, seasonal suspends.
Hmm.
No,
So I think we should just keep this at 765, even though it's like, it's 8, I don't know, should we say it's 767?
sure.
Okay,
What,
there we go.
any reason for? That's such a small change. I could, not
Do you think we should just keep it at 765?
or 770, just,
Okay,
a rounder.
a rounder number?
Yeah.
All right, 70 it is. There we go. So, yeah, we have a very nice, budget here. Anything else that you want to know about this or have concerns about before the next meeting?
Well, Gail, you suggested when we talked that maybe we have a separate meeting just to discuss the budget, since you need to present this to the FinCom before our next regular meeting.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. The FinCom would like a copy of our budget in advance of a month advance in their meeting, and so they'd like a copy, I believe, on February 12th. So, I'd like to have one budget meeting, maybe that first week in February, so that we can get things to them early. So I'm going to go to my calendar here.
FinCom's running a little behind schedule, incidentally,
Ooh.
due to all these
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, so
Uh.
I wouldn't get too worried about meeting those deadlines. And we're usually at the end of the MLP comes at the very last slot, so to speak. Whereas most of the FinCom work is with the school and with others. They don't really pay that much attention to the MLP.
Right. We are scheduled right now to meet with FinCom on March 12th.
March?
March 12th.
Oh, but they wanted the figure a month ahead. So maybe that full month ahead isn't critical, Jim?
No, it's not critical. And if you want, I'll ask everybody whether we can still have a look at it or debate it or work on it at our next February meeting. And whether that would be okay. It give them 2 weeks advance notice, because most of the time these reports, these financial reports that come in from various departments and committees come in at the last minute, literally, hours before we meet. So we're really doing everyone a favor by even if we come up with the information 2 weeks in advance, that'll be better than most.
Oh, okay. If
Particularly
I
ours is
had
not
them
reasonable.
a draft by March 1st for your March 12th meeting,
I think that would be fine.
would that be okay? Okay, let's
Sure,
do that then, and so we don't have to have a whole extra meeting thrown in there. No later than, I'll make a note of this by March 1st.
March, and I'll tell AJ that that's the arrangement, March.
Yep. I'll
Jim, is there less concern with the MLP because we won't actually spend town money? Is that, I mean, we're not
Yes,
gonna.
yeah, we're sort of out of the, we're sort of a sideline that they really don't, they really have little to say about it because there's not much they can say about it.
Right, yeah. Though we're not going to
Wait,
drain the town coffers.
No.
We'll raise and appropriate, so.
Yeah, we're not asking for money or giving the money.
Yeah.
Gail, the other thing I just brought up in that email I just sent you was about the money we're putting into depreciation.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Let's pull up the budget again. Financial trend. Okay, so depreciation, where did There we are. Okay, so current, oh, hold on, I'm not sharing yet. 3. So by the end of this fiscal year, or with our contribution of 45,000 to our stabilization fund, we are going to have 203,685. And this is perhaps more than we need. I asked Shell to give me a rundown of the hot electronics that need to be replaced, and there really isn't any. The cards that we have in there, and the other equipment has no end of life yet, according to Calix. And so, and even if we did replace everything, all of the electronics in the hut, oh, I forgot the figure, Steve. What did we calculate out? It was like
Around
60,000.
$60,000. Around $60,000 would replace all of the active electronic gear in there, not including the batteries and power supplies, which are already being replaced and paying for out of our general maintenance budget. So, and what I had just remembered was initially we were putting 38,000 and change into the depreciation fund every year. And that was this carefully calculated figure. We took the total cost of the electronics in the hut. I don't remember if we threw the routers in and O&T.
We did, we
Yeah.
did, but there were router costs.
But I don't
6
think we
years
put
ago, yeah.
labor for replacing routers in. Anyway, we had this big figure and divided it by, I think, 7, and came up with this 38,865, whatever I looked that
Yeah.
up, told you. And then a couple of years ago, when we reduced the monthly fee by $15, I said, okay, I really want to make sure we're not gonna put ourselves in any crunch in the future. Let's bump up that 38,000 to 45,000. It wasn't based on anything. It was just thought, make sure we're putting enough aside and still able to maintain that the lower MLP fee. And so past few years, we've been putting the 45,000 in. Now we're finding, well, for the hot electronics, we don't need anywhere near this amount. Now, we do have the router discussions going to be coming up. So, maybe it'll go to one pocket instead of another. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that 45,000 figure is nothing carved in stone. If we needed more funds for something else, we could safely reduce that 45,000 annual contribution and to the depreciation. And I am specifically here thinking about the manager's salary, that I feel it's a low figure, but I'm waiting for Gail to come up with actual figures from Shell before we explore further.
Yeah, let's get some data behind that. I still am hovering around, like, well, just under 48 hours a month. I showed you that spreadsheet. And also the job is not getting any easier. And also the kind of on-call time that it requires of as needed. It's hard to like shoehorn it into, well, you can't say, oh, I'm only gonna do, the broadband job on Fridays for the 8 hours a week. It's kind of like a six day a week job. Calls and emails and texts and communications with Sheld that they come in constantly, every day of the week. And so I think that is one of the other things that makes this a tough position. And it's not full time. So it's always, but it's not full time. So anyway, let's get some good information from Sheldon Holyoke Gas and Electric about what market rates are for that and have that discussion.
Okay. I need to leave.
Oh yeah, you have to go to your class. You go ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit about router stuff, and we will talk to you in a month. And yeah, I think next month's meeting we can keep it to an hour as well.
Okay.
Okay.
See you, Steve.
So we're not going to get into the big router discussion, but I want to talk about how to talk about routers. Figure out how we're going to approach this discussion. So I think one piece of information that we really need for this is a review of tickets for the last 2 years to see which have been solved, which of those could have been solved via a managed router. I think that going down the road of trying to figure out how many truck rolls we're going to save with a managed router is kind of a lost cause because they don't roll the truck for a router issue, but they do incur very frustrated phone calls from and multiple phone calls from customers. You see it in, I don't know if you noticed this, Graham, but if you look through the tickets, you notice that it's like multiple people call or the same person calls often a couple of times to solve their issue. It's not like a one and done.
Remember last month there was one person who had 4 tickets and there was another one with 7 tickets or something. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I got it was actually Bobby, the operations manager there, stepped in with a call. There's a woman who called 3 times during a night with it. She was just getting very upset because she couldn't fix a printer issue. And the end result was that she just needed to press the WPS button on the back of her router to make it connect.
yeah.
And like understandably, she was getting really irate of like, why can't you help me with this?
That's why I just love the idea of just offering this optional extra that people could ask for, and because there's so many people who, what does WPS stand for? What is that button for? If they press the reset instead of the WPS, then they also shoot themselves in the foot. So you don't want them. Yeah, you don't want them having to study this stuff. So
Yeah, and so I think that we can agree when we have this router discussion that we're not going to make a viable financial thing of that trade-off, but instead look at the customer experience for this and is that return worth it? And in an ideal world, how I want this to go is that we go through this digital equity grant process, which is going to be time consuming. It's going to be kind of a pain, but at the end of it, we get some data out that's going to support, like, prove out that a network-wide upgrade is something that could improve our digital equity, and then get grant money to help with this. It's not going to solve our operations problem of, this is going to increase operations costs going forward, but at least maybe help out the upfront costs. So anyway, any other kind of like pieces of information to aid in this router discussion besides having Calix and I want Calix and Shell to do kind of a co-presentation, like really showing us their customer support experience. Anything else that would be helpful?
Yeah,
Craig?
yeah. I think that getting input from other providers as to how they deal with, I don't know how to boot my computer. What do I do?
Mhm.
It's really not an ISP issue, right? But I understand that customers who don't understand that are frustrated, and so what do other providers do? What does Frontier do? What is, right? And of course, what does Shell do? But
Yeah, they I've already talked to Sheld about like, how do you guys deal with this? Well, first of all, they have the managed routers, which helps. But you know what the other thing they do? They roll a truck. If because it's so local and they're right there, and you know, they're very invested in having their fiber network succeed, that they help the customer as much as they can with, you know, and they can solve most problems. But if it's somebody who just like they can't get their damn printer to connect, they roll a truck.
Oh,
but they're not billing themselves $400 a truck roll. And in fact,
Correct.
if their crew's busy, then they probably don't roll the truck, right?
Yeah,
So it's really rolling a truck that has nothing else to do, so it doesn't cost them anything. On the other hand, it does cost us.
yeah, good point. Yeah. This is another way that we could approach this. Let's say we wanted to have excellent customer service, right? Something like 1 day a week or half a day a week. There's a tech support truck for non-urgent issues that comes out like every Wednesday morning or something. And will help people do things like hook up your printer, you know, or get that TV online that you need. So anyway, just another thing to think about if we're going to be spending, if we don't want to spend $24,000 a year on routers, what if we put that money towards truck, like actual tech support?
Yeah. Well,
It's a weird way to approach it, but we could do it.
well, it's going to be complicated to define what emergency means. My
Yeah.
dad used to repair appliances, and he would have people calling and saying, "My dishwasher's broken on Sunday, and I need it fixed now." And his response was, "You can wash dishes by hand." But of course, it was a more diplomatic response. But for the people he was talking about, it was a crisis. They were in, this was an emergency. It has to happen today. And
Yeah.
so if it's the season finale of some show that they're trying to watch, they're going to say it's an emergency.
Right. Right. I mean, it would kind of be an interest. You know what? I want to do out that math. Like, let's just say that half of our tickets that come in, so about we get about 43 tickets a month. Let's say that half of them, 20 of them, we said we'll send someone right now, or we'll send somebody first thing in the morning. What would the cost of that be? So anyway, I'm going to do out that math. I just thought of it now, but if we want to see how we can improve customer experience for the same or less, it's an interesting thought exercise. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about routers. I don't know about you guys. I can't wait to have this discussion. I'm just so excited. So excited. Uh, all right.
I suspect one of the areas that managed routers is going to do really well in is the artificial intelligence stuff of just looking at patterns and recognizing stuff when there's problems. So I think that will be, and AI doesn't cost that much, So I think that's going to also be something that we can ask Calyx about, where they're going with that.
That's
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that of like what else can it do that that is future thinking.
Yeah. It'll be security and also problems, erratic problems that'll show up. A little bit like my power monitor can see erratic stuff now. There's artificial intelligence on power right there. So yeah.
But if and when Calyx offers that, it's going to be $5 a customer per month.
Yeah, it'll be a little more, but right now the cost of predicting hurricanes apparently is going to go down because because pattern recognition does better on predicting than meteorologists.
Yeah.
So it's there's gains there. So.
All right, any other items we need to discuss? No? All right. Well, I will talk to you all in February then. Stay warm, enjoy the snow.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye all.
Yeah. Bye bye.